Guys, Daemonxel back again with another Eve Frontier video. I've seen a lot of people comment on how this cycle has no content. It's just a rehash of the cycle one. This game is dead on arrival. So, why don't we discuss the difference between errors and cycles and what it means for the overall gameplay? Let's talk about it. All right. Now, before we jump right in, you know what I'm going to do? That's right. I'm going to tell you, if you are not a founder already and you're thinking about jumping into this game, go ahead and use the link below in the description of the video. That is my founder's code, my referrals code. You can put that in there. Helps me get some grace, helps you out. Just, passing the love. All right. So, a lot of comments basically saying how they were expecting that this cycle would have a lot more content. There's not a really big difference between this cycle and last cycle, and how other developers, such as Path of Exile 2, that game is also in beta as well. And, between their patches, there's a lot more content that always comes. Well, there is a reason for this, right? The way that this game is doing it is they are breaking things up into eras. It's ERA, eras. And within each era, we are currently in era 6, cycle 2. There's cycles in each era. Now, the errors is what big changes happens. Now, I'm going to show you some stuff in this video from previous eras so you can see exactly what the changes were. And in these cycles themselves, only little changes happen. Basically, they target specific things that they want to test out within these cycles, and that's what they test out, so that we can move on down the line and do bigger things. Yes, in cycles, we will get to test drive some certain features as they release them, as they are ready. In fact, I believe they said near the end of this cycle 2, beginning of cycle 3, or the end of cycle 3, we might have the prototype of the WASD controls for the ships. Again, you're not going to see a lot of changes between cycles. That's why a lot of people sometimes say they're going to take this cycle off, right? Because they're only targeting certain things. Like in Era 5, we had a complete cycle that just was dedicated to economy, right? Testing the market, stress testing this, how do things go? So the cycles are little changes. The errors are the big changes. Now, let me bring up some pictures from the old era, Era 5, and you can see exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, so let me show you. First off, let's go to this right here. Let me bring up the UI. So we have the current UI, right? You see my inventory, my chat window, which I have down here. We have, the info block here, and we have these up here. We have our cam, which is what we're in now. We have our tactical view, which we can switch to, right? And we have the system view, which we can then find things here, right? And this is how we are navigating this game currently, right? In the previous cycle, cycle 5, the UI was flat out garbage. I'm telling you that right now. Let me bring it up and you can see exactly what we were dealing with. Here you go. This is the UI. I know the picture's cut down, but this was the UI that we were dealing with back in Era 5. And at each of these points that was around you, those at this point, I'm not sure. I think these were ships, but as you can see, there's some blocks, but there was no tactical view. There was no system view. You'd actually have to spin your ship around and look for one of these spots. And you could switch it to resources or ships, right? And you could be able to fly out to that resource and do it. Now, there were some other changes as well in the previous cycle. How we have it now, right? When we're building things now, we have the goose, right? When we're building these ships, you have your, as I refer to it, you have your goo, you have your blocks, and you have your mega blocks, right? That's how we build these ships. It wasn't like this back in the previous cycle. Back in the previous cycle, you actually had to make individual specific things. It was a lot more like EVE Online than what we're dealing with now. In fact, it was a lot more complicated, and there was a lot more ways to make money than there is currently in this game, in this cycle. Like, here are a few things that we had to deal with in Cycle 5 to build a ship. Okay, so if you want to build, say, a coil 3 gun, you're not going to your assembler, or actually, I think it's in the printer small here. No, I think it's in the assembler, right? You're not going to go to there and just say, this is what I want to make. Oh, it takes, you know, one circuit board and 3 black goo. Obviously, that's not what it is, but I'm just saying. No, in this one, you would need, you need your weapons, you would need the charge, you would need the mass driver, you would need the platform that it sits on, the projectile platform. You would need all this to combine it all together to build a ship. You would have to build like all like steel, turn that steel into steel beams. You'd have to refine alloys and turn them into light alloys. You have to build bulky cargoes to build the cargo portion of your ship. It was a lot more building intensive to build ships. Now, obviously, I think they streamlined it now because we are building stuff in space, right? All this stuff you're seeing right here, this was all done within keeps. So you could go to your keeps and build everything in your keeps. It was a little easier because you could then set up mass quantities. You could set up 10 build orders in a row and just have like all the stuff building at the same time. So I tell you the truth, I liked it back that way. I hope that they at some point go back and give us both versions. You can build these things in space, or down the line, if we are able to build tribe structures, right? A tribe keep. Maybe then we can build these things in that, or maybe we'll have a special thing in our keep that allows us to build with all these devices and everything else. Now it's just completely compact down to what I would call baby steps. Basically, you don't have to do all this stuff to build a ship to get on. Now, this also goes far as market wise as well. As you can see from this screenshot, right? It wasn't just feral data that you could sell. You could build things and sell them, like steel beams or your raw materials, and the market would actually fluctuate. If you're flooding the market with raw materials, well, that price, the buying orders from the NPCs would drop down, right? So then you'd have to maybe find a niche somewhere else. Oh, you know what? This station here is buying, white framing, white metal framing for, as you see here, 11,129. Well, I can sell these 100,000 of them, or no, sorry, I can sell them for 100,000 and a quantity of this, because you could make a huge amount real fast. And as you can see, a million lux right there. So market wise, it was a lot better in the previous era, but the gameplay was also a lot different. And that's what I want to try to illustrate, is that there is complete differences between the eras. You're going to see those big changes as we move from era 6 to era 7. When we move to that in several months down the line, you're going to see some massive changes. Again, let's go to the game and I'll show you, our build menu. All right, so we are currently in our build menu, right? We have our core structures, which is our refuge. We have our refinery, we have our printer, our network node, we have our portable storage, we have our industry, which has all these things. We have our different storage types. We have gates. We have our defense mechanisms, which is our turrets. We have hangars, right? Our large and medium. We also have our miscellaneous, our totems if you bought the additional packs. But you also have walls you can put up, and basically just decorative totems. Well, back in the other game, back in the other era, this was your space build menu. This is all you had. You had your portable printer, you had your portable refinery, you had your printer large, you had your Septicor. Basically, that was basically kind of like a network node. Basically, you just set that up, and you can make, if you died, you can spawn right back at that spot. In a Windows and Went. It was an Explorer, which was just a gray coffin that you would fly around in. You'd have your smart storage units, your smart turrets, smart gates, your regular storage unit, and Hedgehog, which was basically a big thing that you could just duck behind, right? And as you can see, let's zoom in here. It wasn't just your mined materials. You had to go and make these pieces to build out in space, right? We actually had to build our steel and light alloy. Let's see, let's go here. The only thing that was able to was using carbonaceous for the refinery, right? And I think for the storage as well, 400 for each. Well, now it's a lot cheaper, right? And we're using different ones. We're using common now, 50 common for basically everything except for the printer. which is 50 carbonaceous, and of course your refuge, which is 50 metal rich. But as you can see, back then it wasn't. You actually had to have your silicates. You actually had to have white framing alloys. You had to have steel or steel beams. It was a bunch of things that you had to do to build out in space because most people just worked out of the keeps. There's an event we did. Now, if you might have come across this in the game in the previous cycle or the cycle. It's called a Pharaoh Moon Eater. And this thing is massive, right? It's basically like a boss in space that you can fight. Now, we organized this massive fight open to anyone on the server to come in and let's try and kill a Moon Eater, right? This is when we first started doing this. And as you can see here, I have the UI up here. I forget how many people were in the fleet. I think there was like something like 50 or 70 people in the fleet trying to take this thing out. And as you can see here, these are all the ships that are fighting. And this was your UI, right? It was a lot of stuff that was different from the previous era to this era. And that's what I'm trying to get to. We had more ships. You had battle cruisers, actually, in there. We had, battleships as well. There was a lot of different things that we had previous era that we don't have yet in Era 6 because they are doing different testing. Now, I hope this kind of negates some of the naysayers saying, oh, this game is dead. There's a lot more. There's no content. Also, this game is in alpha. It's not even beta. It is in alpha. It's pre-release. It hasn't even been a global launch. Anyone that's playing this game has basically pre-purchased this game. Now, I refer to it as basically the Baldur's 3 thing, right? When Baldur's 3 first came out, while they were testing it, doing alpha, you could pre-order your game. And if you pre-ordered, you had early access where you can jump into the alpha and just play along, right? You could do the first act of that game. You couldn't do the act 2, you could do act 3, but you had the first act. Well, this is kind of basically the same thing. You're getting a feel for the game, so you're basically going to have a jump on everybody else once global launch is. And then we're earning grace, which is only exclusive right now during this pre-time. And as you earn grace, they're going to be converted into E points. Now, we're not going to talk all about that, but we will. This is the first cycle that they're actually going to assign us these E points, which will carry over every era, every cycle. And you're just going to keep amassing these points. Now, they won't tell us what they're used for, but they did say it is advantageous to have these. And we will be able to use these for something that you're going to want in-game. I have no idea what it is. But we will find out more, I would say, in September when we get the E points. They said probably about the second week in September, they're going to have all the tabulations. They're going to assign all the E points. So if you played last cycle, any points that you got is going to be converted over to these E points. And then each cycle, we start again with new Grace leaderboards, which will then get converted over to E points, which will go into your account, right? And that's locked. It's not per character. That's for your account. So it's going to carry over. So to the naysayers that say, well, I was just expecting more. The game is in alpha. We're in cycle 2. We are just testing everything that they wanted to test in cycle 1, but cycle 1 was just riddled with bugs because it was the first release of this big change from Era 5, like the UI and just everything. Everything was scaled down from Era 5, industry-wise. And now they're just trying to test on this build. When we move to Era 7, I don't know what it's going to be, but obviously there's probably going to be a bunch of bugs in that first cycle. And the second cycle is going to be, a fresh start without some of those bugs. And they're going to start they're just going to start drip feeding us some of the new stuff they're doing. Like it's this cycle right here, right? This cycle, we're going to have actually a server event or multiple events, which are going to be happening. And that's going to be playing into their world event system, which they said is going to be available down the line. So for those that are looking for lore and those that are looking for NPC missions and different things, it's all coming. It's all coming. It's planned out. And we're going to see this probably in the next few weeks when they release the roadmap for this game. Now, it's going to be a loose roadmap, but they said they're going to give it to us so we can see where we're going to with this game. And maybe, hey, you know what? Come December, this looks really cool. They're going to bring this into the game. I think I want to play that. We know we're going to do modular ships, right? Where you can put armor on one side of the ship, guns on the other side of the ship. And that's going to be released with the WASD because obviously it's not going to work now if you can't manually control your ship and just point and click. I don't see it working. But that's going to open up a whole new world for PvE, for PvP, a bunch of that stuff. So, again, I know I keep saying this to the naysayers. Just stick with it or, take a break. But just know that this isn't the full game. This is just a small portion of what they're testing. Yes, we are bug testing the game for them, and we are, the quality control. We are the guinea pigs of Eve Frontier. But because we are, and we got that Founders Pack, we're not paying anything additional. We're getting a few months when the game goes live and it's subscription based, right? Just like Eve Online is. Well, because we are early and we got these Founders Pack, we're going to have that time stored up. I forget exactly how much time you get with the Founders Pack. I think it's maybe 3 months free that you're going to be getting this. So that's 3 months that you're not going to have to pay for this game, right? You just enjoy the game. We have at least, I'd say, a minimum, another year and a half, maybe 2 years before this game even launches globally. I don't see the full game releasing in 2026. I don't see how it's possible, especially since these cycles run about 2 months at a time. I just mathematically, I don't see it happening. But who knows? I don't know what's going on behind closed doors. I don't know what's going on behind the curtain. But I'm excited for it, and I'm here for it, and I'll keep bringing the stuff to you, whether you are playing the game or not playing the game. If you're curious about the game, you'll be able to see these things as I'm going to as we do. Like, in other words, when the event drops, I'm going to do an event video so you can see exactly what they're talking about for these events and everything else. So, with that in mind, thank you for listening. I hope this broadens your understanding of the difference between errors and cycles and why things don't seem like they're changing a lot between these little patches. But until I talk to you guys again, have a great week. Have a great weekend. Fly safe. And remember, here on this channel, we are always one vision, one purpose, one front. I'll see you guys in the next video.